This May 11th meeting of the Senate Finance Committee will come to order. A quorum is checked in. We have one bill on the agenda, is House File 669, Senator Pappas. Senator Dames.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we start the bill, I would like to talk a little about an issue that I have a real concern with. And that issue is this announcement was made on listserv last night at 4:18 p.m. The rule 12.3, I believe it is, clearly states that it should be a 72-hour notice, if practical. And I think when we had yesterday still 12 days left in session, that would have been very practical for this to have gone through the proper process. And Senator Marty, you've been a very strong opponent of making sure the rules are followed and things are done correctly. But it seems like that's not been always the case in this committee, and especially on this bill. We see bills for bonding, many sessions that they extend late into the session. We have plenty of time to handle this bill properly. We have plenty of time to give the right notice. And so I'm very disappointed that we did not do that. And I'm going to ask to move that we postpone the hearing on this until the proper notice has been made. And I'm going to ask that we have a roll call vote and that is put in the journal.
Sure. Senator Dames would move that. I presume your motion is that you would, Mr. that we would lay the bill on the table and then that we would reschedule this. I'm not sure what the formal motion you would be making would be.
Reschedule the bill, meeting the required timelines.
Okay. And
so it'd be laid on the table till rescheduled with proper timelines.
Okay.
Proper notification.
And Senator Dames, I agree with you. I like to have much longer notice, and as you know, every year, including last year and so on, things were often not scheduled until the last minute. And as you know, it's to the extent practicable and in the rule. And I didn't find out till yesterday that there was desire to make this bill happen quickly because there's so many other things happening. And as you know, we're very late in the session. And we're trying to do things as orderly as we can, but I prefer to give much longer notice, and I try to do that as best I can, but did not have the ability to here. And so I would urge members to reject the motion. And Senator Dames, any other comments on your motion?
Yes, I do have some more comments, and thank you, Senator Marty, for the comments that you've made. I do think that we have as many days left as we do, that it is not impractical to expect to have the proper notice. I am just sitting on the sidelines watching what's going on. You folks control what's happening. You folks control your targets. You control the spending. And it appears to me, and I may be wrong, but it appears to me where we're at is the reason that this is such a hurry up and let's get this done deal is because I think you've maybe overspent your targets. And so you need to know what's going to happen from a standpoint how this bonding bill is going to go. Is it going to be a cash bill or is it going to be a GO bonding bill? And that's going to make a difference in how you treat the rest of the session from a spending standpoint. Now, I may be wrong, and if I am, then I'll take credit for being wrong. But with that said, I still think that my motion is a motion that should be passed, and we should adhere to it, and we should get back on track. We've got 12 days left. Let's get back on track and doing things according to the typical way it should be done in the Senate, and not just always, not abide the rules and just move on at other people's expense. So I do support the motion and hope that people will support the motion. I think it's a very reasonable motion, and it's time we start paying attention to the rules. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Pappas, then Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just some brief comments. Senator Dames, I kind of sympathize about how frustrating it is for your caucus. I lived in minority purgatory for 6 years here in the Senate. But a bonding bill is one area where you can really claim a win for your district. And I was always very excited when the bonding chair would include me in the negotiations. I mean, Senator from Rochester, Senjum. Senator Senjum gave me $52 million for a bridge in downtown St. Paul. And then we negotiated, I think, like $25 million in cash. And I was able to get like $2 million for a very important nonprofit in my district. So I sympathize with how your caucus is feeling, but I would just urge you to consider how important bonding bills are. This bill is not a new bill. This is the same bill that we saw here in March 2 months ago. And just a brief comment about the timing. The Speaker wants to adjourn on the 18th, and that's already pending in Rules Committee. So that's only a week, and we have all the omnibus bills, almost all the omnibus bills to pass on the floor yet. So we really don't have time, and people want the weekend off. I mean, that's unheard of the last weekend, almost the last weekend of session. I remember being here in years past on Mother's Day negotiating bills. So to have Saturday and Sunday off is like an amazing thing. I'm sure our staff will be working all weekend, and there might still be conference committees working, but we won't be in session. So that's just my comment about how important it is that we do take this up today. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I respond
Senator
to that?
Dames, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Pappas, and I understand the importance of bonding bills. I've been around here for 13 years and have been the beneficiary of my district to have some very good things in bonding bills, just like you have. I still stand by my comment that we have 12 days left, and the world is not going to end if we follow the rules and do it properly. So what I'm hearing, Senator Pappas, is because people want to adjourn early, let's just throw the rules out the window, turn back to the old wild, wild west, and let's just do things the way we want to get them done so we can get out of here. I don't think that the people elected us and asked us to come and represent them, and then after this many weeks and this many months working on stuff in the session, that now we decide that we got to hurry up and get out of here, so let's just throw the rules to the wind. I'll stick by my motion, and we'll go from there.
Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would hope that we would not support the Dames motion, but perhaps what is best is for me to ask a couple questions. I think one of the questions that I had was already answered. That it's my understanding that the bill before us is the same bill. And if it's the same bill, it's not just that the same bill that was done earlier in session. This is the same bill from last session where it was already negotiated and there was a deep consideration given to both GOP and Democrats. So it's been a whole lot of time, and in fact, I would have changed the bill. I would not have kept the same bill. I would have done something different, because if someone doesn't want something, then I don't know why we are doing this bill. But with that being said, it's the same bill. It's from 2022. It was also done earlier in the session. It failed on the floor. Immediate consideration was given for it to be laid on the table. Now we have it in finance. Now we are hearing that the notice that was provided for a bill that was already debated and looked at and considered is before us. Notice is really provided as an opportunity for us to review and consider the bill and think about it, and for us not to be ambushed. None of those matters or none of those challenges are before us. And last but certainly not least, whether, bonding bills are done earlier on or later in the year, the principles are still the same. And the principles of notice and review and consideration, us having time in order to do those things. So this bill has been worked over and looked at. And so with that being said, I would hope that we would not support the Dames motion. I do have one last thing to say. I believe that Minnesotans want us to finish as early as possible and get our work done. Not just delay for the purpose of delaying, but delaying in order to make sure that we have a real opportunity by which to consider matters and be very deliberative about it. And we are the Senate, and we do not do anything, or we shouldn't do anything, where we are not thoughtful. And I don't think the underlying principles apply here today when we think in terms of violating any of those principles. So I would ask us to vote no on the Dames motion.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Dames.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Champion. I appreciate your information. So I guess I should assume that the new rules are, and I'm surprised as President, Mr. Chair, that I'm hearing that this bill was heard earlier, so therefore we shouldn't be worrying about the 3-day rule, and that actually for me to bring this up, I'm just trying to delay things. I find that interesting that I'm being accused of delaying things because I believe we should follow the rules. I don't see anything in 12.3 where it indicates that, other than as it says where practical. I don't see anything in there that indicates that if a bill has been heard earlier in the session, that then it automatically doesn't have to follow that rule 12.3. Mr. Chair, I find it interesting, the reasons that we're coming up for not following the rules get a little more interesting every piece of conversation we're having here. And again, I would suggest that we table this bill and do this procedure properly.
Before I turn back to Senator Champion, I know Senator Draheim had, some of the people online were having trouble hearing. Senator Draheim, you had a question as well?
I did, Chair. Thank you. And thanks for getting the audio working. Yeah, I missed part of the conversation, but I just want to remind Senator Champion that I think at his request, we had a jobs hearing that we had to postpone because we didn't get, after his request, because we had a technical error posting something. And if this bill's been heard or not is really not, I think the issue is transparency with the general public, not just within our membership and our committee, but to the public. And I think that's why we have the notice is for the public. So the people that want to pay attention have the opportunity. So that's all I had to add. Senator
Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for Senator Dames' comments. But I think my good friend from the other side of the aisle is forgetting some important principles in the articulation of the situation that was before the Jobs Committee. I, being the chair, talked to Senator Draheim and others, not just in light of a technicality, but in light of the fact that they wanted me to delay it in order to make sure that they had a chance to read it and go over it because it had come back to our committee, and I wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity by which to do it. And the whole reason that I did it that way is because I wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to read it and review it and consider it and think about any information that, or any amendments that they would want. If that bill had come back in the exact same form that it did before, then it would be a little different. And so I think that Senator Dames, as well as Senator Draheim, is skipping over the word "when practical." And that's an important word that you can't just gloss over, right? Because it says, is it possible? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to just stick to three days. You should do your very best, but if it doesn't work, and if there's a legitimate rationale that something else should be different, then we should do that. And so, last but certainly not least, I did not imply anyone was trying to delay. I said we should never do things as a body as a tool just to delay. So that wasn't criticizing anyone in particular, and I do think that this particular bill has been seen, done, vetted, jumped over, stumped on, and I don't understand why we are having this discussion instead of us going forward. So with that, I would ask that we vote no on the Dames amendment or motion.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Dames.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to remind people, we're hearing today that how this bill has been around. It was last year's bill. We introduced it early this year. It's been heard, it's been this, it's done that, it's done this. I just want to, for the record, clarify, this is not last year's bill. This is not the bill that was introduced earlier this year. Keep in mind, this bill was amended on 3/14. This is an amended bill. An amended bill is not the same as the original bill. Let's keep that in mind. So if we want to sing the song that this bill has been around since last year, it has been amended. Just keep that in mind. And when you amend a bill, you change the bill.
And Senator Dames, yes, this is, I believe, the bill the House passed, and very similar to what we had up when we passed the bill out.
Mr. Chairman, when I get a moment, I was going to explain that.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute, but I also want to say that I know, having served in the minority and often not having anywhere near 3 days' notice, not having a full day notice, my approach was always to speak to the chair, and I did that a number of times and said, we'd love it if we can have more notice, because we understand near the end it's not practical to get as much, and we're trying to give as much as we possibly can. Our
Mr.
members
Chair.
didn't know about it before. Go ahead.
Can you tell me, you've been on finance for many years, correct?
Number of years, yeah.
Can you tell me last year, when a bonding bill was in front of finance on a 14-hour notice? Can you tell me when the last bonding bill you heard in finance did not follow the rules? Can you tell me when that happened?
Senator Dames, there have been a number of bills. I don't pay attention to which ones. I just remember a number of times asking if they could do better with notice.
Again, Mr. Chair, I request a roll call, and that this be put in the ledger, so we'll need 3 hands raised.
Okay. The roll call will be taken, and it'll be printed in the journal, and staff will take the roll.
Chair Marty?
No.
Senator Friends?
No.
Senator Pratt? Senator Champion?
No.
Senator Dames?
Yes.
Senator Draheim?
Yes.
Senator Eichhorn?
Yes.
Senator Mohammed? Senator Murphy?
No.
Senator Pappas?
No.
Senator Westrom? Yes. Senator Wickland?
No.
Senator Pratt? Senator Mohammed?
There being 4 ayes and 6 nays, the motion does not prevail. Senator Pappas, House File 669.
Well, we're off to a great start here. So, members, we are actually going to take up a delete all amendment that will remove the changes that were made in the Senate's Finance Committee the last time and return the bill to match the language to the version of the bill that passed off the House floor. And the reason for that is that the Speaker has requested that it not come back to the House for concurrence, that she wants to just get it passed. So the adjustments I made earlier in the bill will be made in the cash bill, which I would have liked to have had today, but we need a little more staff time. And also, I'm still hoping to work with Senator Housley on building that cash bill, and have asked her for the last 3 or 4 months to give me the list of her members' top priorities, which I've urged her to get ready to go, and make sure staff has the information so that we can include your members' top priorities. I believe very strongly that a bonding bill needs to be balanced geographically and politically. And I've worked very hard to make that the case. And why Senator Champion said it was really based on last bill is that was the bill that was negotiated by your chosen chair when you were in control. And we really respected the negotiation that had gone on between myself, Representative Lee, Senator Bach, and Representative Erdahl, and tried to carry over those recommendations into this bill. And then, as we had a higher target, adding to them in negotiations. And let me remind everyone that started in January. Senator Housley was invited to all of those meetings and invited to be part of the process. And she participated to the extent that she was able and willing to do. I just want to mention one other thing, is that Senator Housley was there. We had a leadership meeting with the chairs, the minority leads, the speaker, the majority leader, and the speaker, I think, articulated it quite clearly. She said, this is the fairest and most balanced bonding bill in the history of her tenure, probably my tenure too. As I mentioned, it's equally divided. Actually, I think bonding bills tend to have, over the years, been very, very highly rural-oriented. So yes, we probably do have a few more metro projects in here, but it's still very heavily rural project, roads and bridges, wastewater, PFA, DNR, all the agencies that work and serve rural Minnesota. Plus, there are some significant earmarks in the bill. More of the earmarks are in the cash bill, and I fully intend to that agreed-upon cash bill, that was $393, to carry over all of those provisions. But members, I need your help. In order to do that, I need to pass this bill, because if you defeat this bill again, then the leadership has already decided that we don't have a $2.3 billion cash target this year. We have a $1.3 billion cash target. And the governor has swooped in, and he wants half of that money for state agencies. So that means all your local projects, and I'd be happy to go to pull that out and list them all. It's going to be very, very difficult to do that. And also, I think it's only fair that we focus on funding the projects for members that are willing to be partners and that are voting for the bill. So the one that Senator Eichhorn's district that I really, really like is I really want to see that loon center. I'm just going to mention that, Senator Eichhorn, because I love loons. And that's kind of a favorite of mine. And it kind of breaks my heart, because a lot of, Senator Dames, a lot of your people have come in and talked to me, you know, also Senator Weber. And I haven't heard so much from Senator Westrum's people, but, you know, they need these wastewater projects. They need this PFSA money. And there's tons of it in this bill. Plus, match federal money. We're bringing in another bunch of federal money with the match that's in here. I mean, this is like an amazing bill. I'm very, very proud of it. And with that, I just want to turn it over then to Hannah, who's going to just tell us briefly about the changes as we revert from the Senate bill that was amended back to the House bill.
Ms. Grunwald-Noldner, welcome to the committee.
Mr. Chair and members, for the record, my name is Hannah Grunwald-Noldner, Senate Fiscal Analyst on the Capital Investment Committee. I'll touch on the changes from House File 669 as it passed the Senate Finance Committee to as it's being proposed to be amended by the A9. So the spreadsheet in your packets is titled 2023 Capital Budget, and the columns on the right-hand side, the left column is the House File 669 as it passed Senate Finance, and the right column is House File 669 as proposed to be amended by the A9. And there are no changes on the first page, including the University of Minnesota, Minnesota State, Department of Education, and Minnesota State Academies. All of those amounts stay the same. On page 2, Purpose Center for Arts Education stays the same. For the Department of Natural Resources, there's a small change here under flood hazard for Moorhead on line 58, $200,000 increase to that line. And I believe this change was made in House File 669 previously to balance out some of the amounts in the GO bill and the GF bill. And that change will show up again on line 82, just a $200,000 increase of the total for DNR. On page 3, there are no changes for Pollution Control Agency, Board of Water and Soil Resources, Department of Agriculture, the Zoo, Administration, Amateur Sports Commission, or Military Affairs. All those appropriations stay the same. On page 4, Department of Public Safety remains the same. Under Department of Transportation, on line 152, the City of St. Paul 3rd Street Kellogg Bridge Gold Line BRT, $25 million is added into the bill. And then on line 154, Washington County Lake Elmo Ave Interchange, $10 million is taken from the bill, leaving a $15 million change on line 156 for Department of Transportation. Under the Met Council, the only change here is for the City of St. Paul, Mississippi River Learning Center, an increase of $1.3 million. On page 5, there are no changes to the appropriations for Department of Human Services, Veteran Affairs, Department of Corrections. And then for the Department of Employment and Economic Development, the only change here is on line 196 for the City of International Falls Regional Health and Wellness Center, decrease of $1 million from the bill as it passed finance to as it's being proposed to be amended. On page 6, no changes to the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board. And then 2 changes underneath Public Facilities Authority. First, on line 216 for the City of Babbitt, water, sewer, and utility improvements, taking out the $2 million appropriation. And then on line 228 for the City of Lino Lakes, water treatment, taking out the $13.5 million appropriation, leaving a $15.5 million reduction for the Public Facilities Authority. Then on the page 7, no changes to the Housing Finance Authority, Historical Society, or the estimated GO bond sale expenses. And the only changes that are showing up in the total are some shifting from GO bonds and the Transportation Fund, which is also GO debt. I will just note that the net GO impact after cancellations is $1.5 billion. And the net general fund on line 292 is $4.792 million. On the very last page, the debt service amounts are shown between the 2 bills, and I'll just note that there is no change from either version of the bill. The debt service being carried in fiscal year 24-25 on line 299 is $39.8 million. And on line 302 for fiscal year 26-27 is $98 million for that biennium. And then the next few tables are just showing the net general fund impact and again, the totals of the GO bonds and state transportation fund. I'll stop there, and if members have any questions on certain provisions, I can go into more detail.
Senator Champion.
So, Mr. Chair, would you like for us to wait until all the presentations have been done? Because I have a number of questions for the author.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then, Ms. James, you want to go ahead?
Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair and members, the only differences in Article 2 of the bill from the earlier version is that the Duluth Zoo, there's a modification to the Duluth Zoo project that will be removed with the DE, and then a reference to the month on the cancellation report that is the provision identifies the cancellation report by the month in the DE, and in the Senate's version, we just referenced it by the year.
Okay, Senator Champion, now you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Senator Pappas. Senator Pappas, I just want to understand the guiding principles in the bill. It's my understanding that you want to have a separate bill where there are members' projects. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Champion, yes, we have a cash bill, and we did have that before the committee as a package. But given the timeline, we're hoping to expand that cash bill to include everything that was in the original bill that was before us in March, and then to include whatever our target is, more projects that have come before us, that members have indicated are their top priorities, what the Republicans would like to do, anything missing for the governor. And I'm not clear at this moment what that additional amount is, because there were negotiations going on with the minority caucus. They were offered another $200 million for roads and bridges. Then they were offered $200 million to spend as they will, invited to continue negotiating, working with us on more projects, and there hasn't been, an agreement hasn't been reached on that.
So, Mr. Chair,
Chair,
so I see on page 52, 52.6, I see that you have an allocation for the American Indian Center. Is that not a
Page 52.
members project? Or is that a state agency or something that we should know about?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Chairman, that is an amendment to an earlier appropriation. So that's not new dollars. There are some projects in here. We had a split of 180 million in the bonding bill, 90 for Republican projects and 90 for Democratic projects. I believe that was the number. And so some projects were identified as to local governments, and I believe that's probably all that's in this bill, were mostly just to local governments who could handle the bonding dollars. We tried to keep the appropriations for nonprofits in the cash bill, because then the cash is easier for them to access. They don't need to have a government ownership.
And Mr. Chair, and would you be so kind, well, maybe I should go through some of the questions I have. Then at line 29.9,
You're at the bill again, not the spreadsheet?
right, I'm looking at the A9, or is that not what we
Yep.
should be looking at?
Yep.
And if we're looking at A9, which is 29.9, you have an allotment of money at 29.9 for metropolitan regional parks and trails. And so that would be the appropriate place for this to be, as opposed to someplace else? Or has this historically been in this bill?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it has.
Okay. And then if you go to,
And it's a historic number in this bill.
how?
It's a historic number in this bill.
And then if you go to 12.23, I see that you have community tree planting grants. And so is that historic in this bill, or is that something that should be in legacy?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Champion, I actually don't recall if it's been appropriated. It is under DNR, and it goes through DNR, or Parks and Trails. It goes through DNR. So community tree planting is a statewide program.
But wouldn't that, Mr. Chair, usually go through legacy? Because doesn't legacy also have DNR, or they don't have DNR?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Champion, I'm not familiar with Legacy, and I'm not sure what they funded. We did try to keep track of what other committees funded so that we were aware if we were adding too much money. For example, on the Historical Society Asset Preservation, Senator Murphy did some funding in her bill for that, I think about 8 million, and we actually, I believe, have 5 million in this bill. But so many of these things are, there's huge backlogs.
But, Mr. Chair,
Senator Champion.
but Senator Pappas, is this capital? Because when you're planting trees are important, but I'm not sure why this would be listed in the capital investments bill.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Champion, it is considered capital.
Okay. And then I'd like to go to 35.3.
At the bill.
And that's for the lead service lines. It's my understanding that we just passed the bill off the floor roughly $240 million. And so I'm just trying to understand why we have an additional line here. Would you like to help me out there?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Champion, you're totally right. At the time, though, this bill was passed in March, I think this also serves a different purpose, because it's for the publicly owned portion of the drinking water lead service lines. And I believe the lead service line bill, I'm looking to see if anyone else knows about it.
I know about it. It's all
Okay.
for public.
It's also public. So I think if we had the ability to amend this bill, we probably would take that out.
And Mr. Chair and Senator Pappas, don't we always have the ability to amend the bill? Because even though the Speaker is the Speaker of the House, we are the Senate, and we should be able to do whatever we want to do, and then we can send it back over there. Or am I misguided, that the Speaker of the House is now the person who presides over the Senate?
Senator Champion and Mr. Chairman, I totally understand your position, but the Speaker has told us she's not sure she has the votes to repass it.
Okay,
So
I understand.
requested that we keep it in the same. I think it is conceivable that we could make adjustments, but it would have to be in another bonding bill, and given how difficult it is to pass bonding bills, because we usually have modifications that also need to go in under a bonding bill banner.
And I think you've done Mr. Chair, I think you've done a wonderful job, but there's just some things that I had some questions about. So I
Absolutely.
don't want you to take it any other way than me just appreciating the work that you've done, but have some questions. And I think the other one was the Ford building, but that is not considered a personal project, and that's one of those infrastructure projects that would appear here. And if you want to look at the Ford project, that's on 21.20.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, and that actually is the only thing in here that is cash, but it has to be in a bonding bill. Okay. It was included in here at the administration request, and they do want to tear down that building. It's been for years, like 20 years, and it's really dangerous and falling apart. And then the plan is to create more green space, because the new state office building will take some of the green space that's right next to it. Is it called the John Ireland Park? And so they need to replace that. And then the idea is potentially to have like a multi-ethnic food mall and shops there. We need that around the Capitol. I mean, we have these great food trucks, but, we could use some more food in coffee shops nearby.
Mr. Chair, and you're absolutely right, we certainly can. I know in my district, we could use food because we're a food desert. And so it'd be great to
Absolutely.
have some of these
Yes.
things. And as I look at it, I was just going from your guiding principle where you were saying that the number of member projects that are personal are in the cash bill, and I kind of looked through this bill.
Oh, well, Senator Champion, no, there are some in here. It's
Okay.
not pure that it is. It's just more of the nonprofit projects are in the cash bill because they need the cash. But if we have money that's going to the administration or to a local government, they could be in the bonding bill, and some of them are. Like I said, it was a package.
So, Mr. Chair, out in there, but my concern is just that I'd like to talk offline with you because I have a little concern about this bill and what's in this bill and how and what paces that we went through in order to say what should be in this bill and what shouldn't be in this bill. And I just think that would be wonderful. So thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair,
thank you
for
so
your
much.
thoughtfulness, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking with you, Senator Pappas, about it.
Thank you, Senator Champion.
Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair Marty and Senator Pappas and Senator Champion for the discussion. I guess I have to agree with Senator Champion. I don't know why we're amending on changing the bill for things that we've already funded. We are the Senate, we are a separate body. Why send an imperfect bill back to the House? So I guess I can't support this amendment with errors in it, if you will, just to make it easier for the House. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Further discussion? Senator Westrom.
Mr. Chair, Senator Pappas, can you refresh us on the amount of money going into lead pipe replacements in addition to the $240 million we just passed off the floor this week?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Westland, there's $10 million in here for lead pipe replacements, and there certainly is a huge need across the state for that. I think that what has been appropriated in the lead pipe bill and this bill, there's still, millions more of dollars that are needed. Didn't I hear something about $1 billion to really replace all the lead pipes?
It's about $1 billion total.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, Senator Pappas, so help me just get straight on this. So this bill has been amended how many times now? Accounting if this one goes on.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Westland, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I made a few minor amendments, which Ms. Grunwald went over to accommodate a couple of my members. I switched out a couple of projects that were then going to be in the cash bill. And, you know.
And that happened when?
That happened in committee in March.
In March?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so-
And so now those amendments are being amended again and taken out in this
Yes,
amendment?
we're
Is that-
going back to what passed the House floor.
Okay. So, Senator Pappas, aren't we still going to have to send it to the House floor anyways, once a bill has been amended? I don't believe we can just send it out without,
Well, Senator West, on the A9 amendment before us is taking the bill back to the House version, so it's identical.
the House is still going to have to concur then, aren't they?
No, the House won't have to concur if they're identical. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Are you sure on that, Senator Pappas? I thought a process and precedent and requires that if we've amended it. But maybe, Mr.
Senator Westrom, if we amend it to something different than what they have, they'd have to concur. If what we're passing is what they had, even if we amended it and then unamended it, basically we are just we're accepting their language, so we're passing the same bill.
But Mr. Chair, and I guess anytime you amend a bill as an amendment, you don't unamend it. You can amend it again back to different language, even if the language then was changed back 2 months later. But I think it's still considered an amendment. But
Right, but-
anyways, I'll let others question. I
On
thought
that
it'd
topic,
be good to be
Mr. Chair.
clarified.
Sure. Senator Dames.
Ms. James, would you weigh in on this, if this should be going back to the House or not?
Mr. Chair and members, I think there may be some differences of opinion on this issue.
And I didn't catch that end.
There may be some differences of opinion on this issue.
Okay.
Senator
Thank you.
Champion.
Mr. Chair, I think perhaps we should consult with the front desk because I remember a similar issue coming up in judiciary around this issue and where there was some technical issue that required us to send the bill back to them. Even once we passed it, it had to go back to the House and be passed all over again. So I'm not sure if this is different, but I think it is better to be safe than sorry. But I just believe that I think we're amending.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Champion, this is just the instructions I've been given by leadership, is to put the bill back in the form that it passed the House, and that the idea is that it won't need to go back to the House again. So I'm just complying with what the request was.
I get it. I'm not even trying to say you're not conforming. I'm just trying to understand the technical aspects of it because I know that we had a similar issue or something similar to this that we thought would be different but ended up needing to go back to the House. So perhaps we can consult with the front desk staff just to get this question answered.
Well, and Mr. Chairman and Senator Champion, if it needs to, it needs to. I mean, that's all we can do then. Then we can say we tried, and if, you know, the technical people say it has to, then it has to. But we'll at least try this path.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and you know, if I could just ask Ms. James, you said there are differing opinions. Can you please weigh in on what that differing opinion is? Because it sounds like Senator Pappas is getting her direction from leadership and not nonpartisan staff. I'd like to hear what those differences of opinion might be.
Ms. James, go ahead.
Mr. Chair and members, earlier in the session, Senator Champion's bill, House File 28, was in a similar situation in that it was amended in the Senate to be back to the version that it passed the House. And for that bill, the House took the position that it needed to be, that the House needed to concur, take a vote to concur. I've been told in the last day that certain staff in the House are advising differently on this matter. I have not had a direct conversation with them, so I haven't confirmed that third-hand conversation is accurate.
So, Ms. James,
Well-
Ms. James, in effect, what you're saying is that the House determines if they want to take it up or not. Okay.
Mr. Chair, that's right.
Senator Champion?
Mr. Chair, the House would determine if they want to accept it or not, and if there's a difference between the House bill and the Senate bill, then they're going to go into conference, because they always have the right to say whether they're going to accept the changes or not, and then they end up going into conference. And Ms. James is right. It was one of my bills. There was an issue where we were trying to work off the Senate file or the House file, and then there was a problem, and I remember this being a nightmare. So let me just say, for the record. So thank you.
Further discussion?
Oh, Mr. Chair,
Senator James?
I think the main thing is that we need to make sure that we get an understanding from the nonpartisan council as to how this should be handled, and then handle it appropriately. Again, we need to follow the rules, whatever that rule might be. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, just so that
Senator
Senator
Champion.
James is assured that we will always follow the rules. There's nothing to suggest that we're going to skirt the rules. It just means that the rules apply differently based on the path utilized. So just so that we're clear about that, no one skirts the rules.
And Mr. Chair,
Senator Murphy?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm the first of 5 kids and follow the rules, so I appreciate Senator Champion's commitment to that. But I also think it's important to remember that the main thing that we're doing right now is debating a bill that would invest in Minnesotans, something that hasn't happened for a little while. And I think that we have to keep in mind and keep in front of us that this is a capital investment bill that is important to the people of Minnesota. So we should, of course, follow the rules in order to meet that obligation to the people that sent us here.
Senator Champion?
What would appear is that we are working off the House file. Is that right? So if we're working off the House file, what would mean that if we're working off the House file and we are, it appears, taking language and amending the House file, and even if it's with a delete all, that means that we're changing it in some shape, form, or fashion. That would force me to assume logically that means we changed it somehow, even if the language is the same. I don't know technically what that means, but it seems technically we're changing it, and we're not just working off of it as it was presented to us, and then we are acting on it. The moment that we put something on it, I think that we have technically changed it, in my opinion. But again, nonpartisan council can help.
Senator Pappas, you have,
Mr. Chairman, I would move the A9 amendment.
Senator Pappas moves the A9 amendment. Is there further discussion on the A9 amendment? Senator Westrom?
Mr. Chair, Senator Pappas, just for the benefit, what projects are we taking out, and then where is that money going in the A9? If you can give us that insight.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Westrom, were you late to the committee meeting? Because the staff already went through those changes when we went through the spreadsheet.
I don't recall them saying what project, what area of the state they were in, but maybe I missed it.
There were just, I think, 3 or 4 projects that are in DFL districts, that there were some that were eliminated and some that were added.
Okay, and the new money is going what area?
There's no new money. It's all the same money. It's just some projects
Right.
were changed out. You know, I mean, briefly, I took out $25 million for a bridge in St. Paul and put in some money for Washington County. And took out some money for a Mississippi River Learning Center and put in some money for International Falls and Babbitt, and put in some money for Lionel Lakes. That was it.
And just so I'm understanding it correctly, Senator Pappas, the money then would go back to the bridge in St. Paul?
Yes.
That's the main
Yes.
dollars.
So
that
it
you're
goes back to those original projects.
Okay.
Right.
On the A9 amendments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion
No.
No.
Chair is in doubt. All those in favor, raise your hands, and those online, please turn on your cameras if they're, I think most are on, but all those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, all those opposed? By a 5-5 motion vote, that does not prevail. Should we take a brief recess, Senator Pappas? You can figure out what you want to.
Who's missing? Wickland and,
Take a brief recess
where is she?
to the call of the chair. order. Given the fact that we're in session in about 20 minutes, I'm going to recess us to the call of the chair, expected sometime after session today, and we do have, I think there's a Rules Committee as well, so I'm not sure. But we will back to the call of the chair sometime after session today. With that, this meeting's in recess.